Hey everybody, Mrs. Kimball here from Kids Cook Real Food. Today we're going to talk about the advanced level skill of sauteing. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about good saute technique, moving things around in the pan, and even more so I want to talk about how you choose what to cook longer and shorter while you're sauteing, and even a little trick how you can kind of steam something at the end of your saute. Even though you're supposed to be sauteing, you can kind of steam stuff. So that's what we're going to do today. My pan is hot, I think. I turned it on because I didn't want you guys to have to wait. I'm going to try the sizzle test. Ready? Listen. I could hear that. I don't know if you could hear that, but definitely my pan is hot. So I'm going to try to do this filming myself with the thing. You know, in the classes, of course, we had the like 2 or 3 videographers. I don't have any of those today. I just have to do it. So here we go. First, remember that when you saute, you want to choose a healthy fat. And I just have some avocado oil. My pan's already heated up, nice and warm. I can still touch the handle, but yeah. And this is cast iron, so I know it probably looked a little dirty because I don't always use water when I wash it. That's just a cast iron thing. Okay, so the oil is nice and hot. Now the first 2 vegetables I'm going to put in are the onions and the mushrooms. And so now let's talk about that. Come back to my face. Haha. All right. So question number 1 to ask yourself when you're thinking about how long to saute a vegetable is, if it's overcooked, is it going to be too mushy or too gross? So when you cook an onion, for example, when you first start cooking it, it gets a little bit limp, right? It's not like right now. I can crack it in half. When you first cook an onion, it's going to get a little limp. Then when you cook it longer, it'll start to turn translucent, like almost see-through, and get even more wiggly like a worm. And then if you keep cooking, if you keep sauteing that onion, it'll get caramelized, which means it gets a little brown around the edges, and it actually gets sweeter. So onions are often the first thing you put in because the longer you cook them, the better they get. So even if you forget about them, as long as you don't burn them, but you know, the longer you cook them, the better they get. So let's put all those onions in. And then I say that's about the same for mushrooms. You know, mushrooms get a little bit slimy as soon as you start cooking them. So they're not going to get slimier. You can't really overcook mushrooms. So pretty much as soon as these onions start getting limp, I'm putting them over here because I don't want to splash that hot oil on myself. It's already popping. So I will use my tool to get those onions into the hot oil. All right, this is not professional videography. This is just Mrs. Kimball with her left hand moving these around. So I like these really long tongs. By the way, I think these are on our resources page. They have a nice silicone grip, and they're very long. So I don't feel like I'm in danger of getting popped. I have my heat set to, right now it's about medium low. And that's backward to you. Ooh, weird. Sorry, I forgot that. I didn't know that would happen. It's high. It's between medium and low right now. And that's because I didn't want it, again, too hot as I was putting it in. But I'm going to turn it up right to medium on my big power burner. And that way, you know, the onions will just get cooking. I can cover this. No problem. I can put the cover on and that will help them cook a little bit faster. And then I'll get those mushrooms in. All right, get this back set up. Ha-ha, the nostril shot. Okay, so let me show you what else I have to saute today. We're just doing, tonight for dinner, we're having some salmon and this whole bunch of vegetables sauteed. So I've got a whole cabbage all cut up. I'm not going to put the whole thing in there because that's huge. Cabbage is another one. That'll be my next in line because cabbage is good if it's lightly sauteed. That's fine. It's just still a little crunchy. That's called al dente. But then, you know, cabbage, kind of like onions, gets a little limp and then it gets a little brown and a little caramelized. So I don't think you can really overcook cabbage. So that's why it's going to be next. And then we talk about, this is zucchini. So I have all my stuff cut up in advance, actually days before I was prepping veggies for the week. So zucchini, in my opinion, is really good when it's kind of al dente. It gets brighter green, just like when we steamed broccoli in the class. And then personally, I think that zucchini can get overcooked because then it just gets really, really mushy. Now, some people like it that way, so that's fine. But I'm going to try to just add my zucchini like at the last maybe 3 or 4 minutes and put the lid on for the saute. And then I also have some broccoli, fresh broccoli, and fresh cauliflower. Oh, I forgot one thing I was going to say. So when you're thinking about which vegetables to put in first question is it going to be like mushy or gross or bad? Just you don't like it as much if it cooks too long. And this comes with trial and error. So that's the broccoli made me think of it because, you know, we steam broccoli in the course. When you first start steaming broccoli, it gets bright green, and then about a minute or two later, it's soft all the way through. You can puncture it with a fork. It's a beautiful bright green. It's still a little firm. And I think, for me, for Mrs. Kimball, that's the best flavor. Now, if you keep steaming that broccoli for like 5 more minutes, or especially 10 more minutes, it's going to get really, really limp, get like a dingier green and almost to brown. I don't like it that cooked. So I think broccoli needs a quick steam. And that's, you know, that's really important. But when you're thinking about how long something will take to cook, you need to look at, you know, how thick it is. So and how much water is in there. So you'll be amazed, and you just kind of need to experiment. So the next time you steam broccoli, I think you should taste it when it's bright green and then set a timer for every 1 or 2 minutes and just keep tasting a little piece, or maybe just leave 1 piece in and over steam it by 5 minutes and taste it. Some kids actually like the really, really soft end. I don't like the really, really soft end. That's just me. So when you think about how much water is in something too, that's going to make it cook a lot faster. So like zucchini is full of water. If you freeze zucchini and then thaw it, there's a ton of water in the bag. And as you cook zucchini, you can see the water come out and the zucchini gets much smaller. Mushrooms are going to get much, much smaller when we cook them because some of the water cooks out. Broccoli kind of keeps its size. So it actually needs a little longer to cook than, say, zucchini. So actually the zucchini is going to go in after the broccoli and cauliflower. For me, I think broccoli and cauliflower need a little bit of steaming because it takes a lot to flip them enough. Sauteing cooks just from the bottom, just where the pan is touching the vegetable. So it takes a lot of flipping to get broccoli nicely sauteed, but it's going to steam very, very well. So we'll kind of show that trick at the end. I can hear, I'm going to Pac-Man my lid. Let's see if I can get this set up here. Can I set this on my cutting board? I don't know. I'm breaking a lot of kitchen rules here, setting a camera on my cutting board. Never tried cooking live in my kitchen before. You guys are the first. Cool, huh? Trying to figure out. There we go. There, that's better. Okay, so Pac-Man the lid, right? It's a little hot. It might be too hot for a child. A child might need a hot pan. Pac-Man that lid, let all that crazy steam out. And then we have already, wow, look how beautiful. Already some of the bottom of some of these onions are getting nice and brown. It's definitely time. I probably talked too long. Definitely time to put the mushrooms in. I know if you ever watched the movie Julie and Julia, about Julia Child, and learning to cook from her book, she says every mushroom needs its own space. Like every mushroom, you treat it like its own little precious child, and it has its own space, like touching the bottom of the pan, and then you flip each one individually. Oh my gracious, Mrs. Kimball doesn't have time for that. Mrs. Kimball's going to make sure that the mushrooms get cooked. That's my goal. That's about it. It's only 3 mushrooms because my kids don't love mushrooms. They're really not their favorite. So I know that Mr. Kimball and I will be the only ones eating mushrooms. Actually, mushrooms aren't my favorite. They're only okay. But I know they're good for me, and I know they do add some good flavor overall to the dish. So it's still important. I still buy them and put them in there. Get the mushrooms in there. And then you know what? Let's get the cabbage in there too. And I'm not going to drip grease on my computer. That is a big goal for today. So I got the mushrooms are in on the bottom. I kind of want them touching the pan. And then I'll get some cabbage in there. The cabbage will cook down. Cook down means that water comes out. So it looks like I just half filled my pan with cabbage. Like, uh-oh, Mrs. Kim, a little too much. You're not going to have room for your other veggies. But I think I'll be okay because I'm going to put the lid on again. And a lot of that water will cook out of the cabbage. I keep wondering if you guys are looking at the stuff that I forgot to clear from the background. This is our kombucha. I've been reading about kombucha for 10 years. And for the first time, I just finally got brave enough to make kombucha a couple months ago. And my oldest loves it. So he's happy. Okay, back to my face. Let's see. What else do we have to talk about? Let me check and see if there's any questions real quick about sauteing or anything else, really. Let's see. Oops. What else do we have to talk about? Sometimes I forget that when I check comments, my own voice comes on. I don't like that part. So we talked about number one question is, if you overcook it, is it still okay? If it's still okay, that means those are the things that go in first. Then number two question is like, how thick is it? We go kind of in order of thickness to figure out when we want to put things in. We talked in the class, of course, just a little reminder about garlic. I'm not using fresh garlic today. I don't know why, mostly because I didn't think about it. So in garlic burns really quickly, because if you think about how tiny it is compared to how thick your other pieces of vegetable are, garlic is so tiny that after like 1 to 2 minutes, if it's touching the bottom of the pan, it's going to start burning, and then it gets bitter, and that flavor will really go through your entire dish. So garlic, and most people don't know this, even adults who are pretty good cooks, fresh garlic should be added the last 1 to 2 minutes of a saute. I still have this on medium heat because I know everything in there can handle it. If it was almost done, one thing I could do is turn it down to very low, right? Just to keep it warm. But there's a little bit of a danger there, because if you turn it down to low for like 10 minutes, you will overcook your stuff. And even if you just, I'm going to pack my lid again. Woo! I got to show you this. But even if you just leave the lid on and your pan is really hot, your food will continue to cook, and you may be sorely disappointed when you get to the table if everything's overdone. Check that out. Can you guys tell how much that cabbage has cooked down? Meaning it's just not taking up as much space because it's kind of getting limp, right? It's getting limp and loosey-goosey. And now I'm going to flip everything around because I really don't want my onions or my mushrooms to burn. I don't want them touching the bottom too much. So I said we'd talk about good saute technique. Good saute technique is going to be a nice flip motion if you're using tongs, or if you're using a spatula or a spoon. I don't know, I just really like tongs. You do a little bit of a merry-go-round just to make sure you get everything, right? So it's a combination of merry-go-round and the flip. We don't really have the flip in Kids Cook Real Food. I guess the closest is the roller coaster. We just didn't really teach them. So now you can see most of my onions and mushrooms are on top. That's just how I wanted it. Now, if I notice, because this happens sometimes, oh my gosh, I'm sorry if that gave anybody motion sickness. This is tricky. Sorry. You can see me. If I notice that things are starting to burn, I have a couple options. 1, I can stir more. 2, I can not put the lid on. 3, I could turn down the heat. Or sometimes if it's burning just like black, and you can't figure out why, sometimes you gotta add more oil. Okay, so when you're sauteing, unless you have the special like no oil pan, but that's good for you, especially with vegetables. When you're sauteing, you do need, kind of see the bottom, you need that coating of oil between your food and the pan, or else the pan will just burn your food right to black really too quickly. Okay, this is starting to look gorgeous. I think my cabbage it's getting there. It's brown enough. So here's what's next. I'm going to put it, you know what I got to do? Hold on. This is a good example for you guys. Last really important tip too about sauteing or steaming or roasting, really, anytime you're cooking vegetables, is you want your food to be about the same size if you put it in at the same time. So look at these. They're super different. I've got really big cauliflower and really little cauliflower. So I'm going to take a minute with my favorite chef's knife, and I'm going to cut some of these pieces up a little more because I want them to cook at the same rate. Okay, rate is kind of another word for speed. I want to make sure that they all take about the same amount of time to cook. So I'm just getting a few out. Now this one needs to be cut a little more. Okay, let me show you. What do you think? Are they all about the same size? They're pretty close. Close enough. Close enough. So now these guys are going to go in. Broccoli and cauliflower in the pot. And Like I said, they're not going to saute really, really well. They just aren't. So here's the little trick that we're going to do. I'm just going to take a little glass and get a tiny bit of water, not even much. Like I might only even put in half of this because you'll see how much it'll steam. Watch this. We're going to get some crazy steam going. And then I trap it with my lid. And so now, sort of on the bottom, onions, mushrooms, cabbage are still like sauteing. And then my broccoli and my cauliflower are steaming. I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. I don't want them to steam too much because remember, I still need to add my zucchini. Okay, I don't want my zucchini to overcook either, but I need to get that broccoli and cauliflower started steaming just to make sure. So for a little, and they're even after like that was like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, they're already, the green broccoli is completely different color from when I put it in. So you know some good things are happening. Now we haven't seasoned anything yet. So it's probably, some people season with like at least salt right at the very beginning. That's probably a good idea because it pulls out a little bit more of the water, but I always forget it. I always forget. So we're gonna have some fun today. I always use salt and pepper. I wouldn't always need pepper, but you kind of always need salt unless you're using something salty like soy sauce or cheese or coconut aminos. Salt really helps bring out the flavor. Now I've got a whole bunch of interesting spices. Oh, you know the one I'm going to use tonight? I just figured it out. This is actually a homemade spice blend. It's from a gut healing diet that my husband and I did a year or two ago, but it is really, really good. It's got a lot of turmeric in it, and it's got fennel, I think. Oh, yeah. Turmeric and fennel and black pepper. I don't even know what else is in there, but I'm going to put my black pepper back because I know there's some in there. It's really, it used to have a label on it, but I forget what it's called. I think it's called the Immunity Spice Blend. Like it's really good in the middle of the winter when everyone's kind of feeling a little bit of sicky. So I'm going to choose to use that. I know that if Paul was here, his favorite is always the Italian seasonings. So he likes to choose oregano, like an Italian herb blend. He grabs marjoram and basil. He always works kind of with those green herbs. He really likes those scents. And then my husband likes spicy stuff. Yes, 2 minutes. So he would always go for chili powder, cumin, cayenne pepper. We don't let him season. Spicy for everybody. Okay, I Pac-Man's the lid. It's a good little chef. Check out. I don't know if you can tell on the screen, but again, the broccoli is incredibly a different color than it was. I'm gonna do a little poke here. Oh, wait. Okay, there we go. And without much trouble, I'm already cutting through this. So they're like, the broccoli and cauliflower are pretty much done. Let's put in the zucchini. If only I had like 3 hands, that'd be easier. Whoa, sorry. That totally steamed up. That's kind of funny. So I'm going to dump my whole bag of zucchini. And that was about half a zucchini or a whole zucchini maybe. And then I'll mix this up. Actually, I better get the salt in there because if you just add your seasoning only at the end, it doesn't really have time to like sink in. Okay, I was trying to open my salt to the bigger holes. I'm just gonna have to shake it longer. Usually when I'm seasoning for everyone and not just my own plate, I use like the bigger holes. But I had to just shake it longer with the smaller holes. Okay, on to this side. Here comes the Immunity Spice Blend. Again, you guys, the professional chefs would say that all that steam going into my spice container is terrible, right? Because there's my spice container right there. They would tell you that that's not a good idea, that you should put it in a little bowl or your hand first. Me, I'm just going to set it open and not put the lid on right away and let that steam, whatever condensation or moisture got in there, I'll just let that evaporate out. So hopefully my spices will be okay, but to believe your mom and dad if they say, no, even though Mrs. Kimball shook it over the pan and let all that steam in there, but I don't want you to do that because I really want my spices to be nice. Okay, so I'm doing this mix thing. It's this nice kind of like pinch and flip, yeah. But, and you can, I don't know if you can see, I can see that everything in here has turned a little bit yellow with that turmeric.
I also know I really like that spice blend. So I wanted to mix it up to kind of see how it distributed, but now I'm going to add a little bit more and mix it up again. And I think, I mean, look at that zucchini. I can tell again that it's brighter green already. I'm going to say maybe 1 more minute and this will be done. And then, I don't know, I didn't cook my salmon yet. So do I want to leave the lid on this? Well, no, I tell my family, like, always put the lid back on when you serve yourself because I don't want cold food. But if I leave the lid on this, it's going to overcook my broccoli and my cauliflower big time. So I'm going to just turn it off completely, move it to the back of the stove, and then once it stops sizzling and burning and stuff, not burning, once it stops sizzling and steaming and stuff, a little later, maybe I'll put the lid on, or I might just flip the heat back on, like right when it's time to eat in about 15 minutes. All right. I thought I might be able to show you fish too, but now that I've experienced what it's like, I'm still a little crooked. Hi, now that I've experienced what it's like to try to hold my little camera and flip things, I'm not going to do fish. That would be a bad idea. But just so you know, kind of your bonus tip for today is that cooking fish is actually a really pretty simple meal for kids to make. If you've got your flipping skills, that's all you need. Okay, you just put like a piece of salmon. You know, they sell them. They sell salmon like individually wrapped like this. This is almost thawed in my sink and I just threw them in the sink with a little warm water when we started this video. So what was that, 15 minutes ago or so? You just put it on the stove, like in a new pan, you know, not the pan that all my veggies are in, a new pan or a griddle, a little bit of oil. It takes about maybe 3 minutes. You'll be able to start to see the white kind of creeping up. The white is the cooked, it's whiter, creeping up the side, and then you flip it over once, another 3 minutes or so. You can probably find a YouTube video since I'm not able to do this for you today, but just on how you flake. You flake fish with a fork, and then it's done. That's it. It's really simple. So you have the skills, my advanced kids, you have the skills to make a whole meal with a salmon and a veggie saute. Isn't that great? All right. I have not seen any more questions come in. So that'll be the end of our office hours today. I'm Mrs. Kimball from Kids Cook Real Food, and thank you so much for being here.